The Galactic Coalition had ruled the known universe for centuries, its fleets dominating the stars with unmatched precision and power. Composed of countless advanced civilizations, the Coalition had become the center of order, deciding the fate of entire star systems with a mere command. Their technology was sophisticated, their warships immense, and their fleets seemingly unstoppable. But today, something was different. Deep space sensors had picked up an unknown warship moving towards the neutral zone, a region of space carefully monitored by all major civilizations. The initial readings were strange, almost impossible to believe. The ship was massive, far larger than anything in the Coalition's records. Its energy signatures were unstable, fluctuating in ways that defied normal patterns. The materials composing its hull absorbed scans instead of reflecting them, making it difficult to analyze. But the most unsettling thing was that it did not belong to any known species. It was a complete mystery. And the Coalition did not like mysteries. On the bridge of the Voralax, the flagship of the Coalition's fleet, Admiral Exarion watched the holographic display with narrowed eyes. The warship was closing in, its trajectory direct and unchanging. "Have they responded to our hails?" Xarion asked, his voice calm but firm. A communications officer, a reptilian Excelthian, shook his head. "No response, Admiral. They are either ignoring us, or they don't understand our language." That was unlikely. The Coalition's standard communication protocol was embedded in the language algorithms of every major species. Even primitive civilizations could recognize the universal signal. If this ship was spacefaring, it should have responded by now. The fact that it remained silent only added to the unease spreading through the fleet. Tension filled the command center as more ships arrived, forming a blockade in the neutral zone. The Coalition had summoned its best forces, deploying over 30 warships armed with the most advanced weaponry in the galaxy. Each one had shields capable of withstanding planetary bombardment, energy cannons that could tear through moons, and engines designed for faster-than-light maneuvers. This was a show of force, a warning to whatever was piloting that unknown vessel. No one challenged the Coalition and lived to tell the tale. Yet, as they watched the unknown ship continue its path, unwavering and unaffected by the overwhelming display of power, a sense of doubt began creeping into their minds. Then, without warning, the ship slowed down. It was the first change in its behavior since it had entered their sensor range. A collective breath was held across the fleet as commanders waited for what would happen next. Would it attack? Would it finally respond? Or was this some form of advanced intimidation tactic? Admiral Xarion tightened his grip on the edge of the command console, eyes locked on the massive vessel. Now that it was closer, they could see it in detail. Unlike the sleek, polished designs of the Coalition warships, this ship was something else entirely. Its hull was thick, layered with armor that looked almost primitive at first glance, but was riddled with deep grooves and reinforcement structures suggesting a brutal efficiency. There were no unnecessary aesthetics, no decorative insignias, only raw functionality. The color was dark, as if the very void of space had been molded into its frame. Along its surface, countless weapons were mounted, ranging from heavy cannons to missile silos. This was not a diplomatic ship. This was a war machine. Fear whispered through the ranks of the Coalition. They had fought wars before, crushed rebellious species that had dared to defy their rule, and encountered civilizations that had tried to challenge their authority. But this was different. There was something unsettling about the presence of this ship, something unnatural. It was as if it had no fear of them, no concern about the power they wielded, and that was terrifying. Admiral Exarion knew he had to act fast. "Prepare a warning shot," he commanded. A burst of energy from the Voralax main cannon would be enough to make their message clear. They had no intention of being ignored. "Target the space ahead of them. Fire at my command." But before they could carry out the order, something happened that made every single being in the fleet freeze. A single message came through their communications channel. It was brief, simple, and yet it sent a chill through the room. "Stand down." The voice was deep, steady, and strangely calm. It was spoken in perfect standard galactic, as if the speaker had been fluent in their language for years. The crew exchanged nervous glances. No species they had ever encountered had spoken in such a way, commanding, absolute, and utterly unconcerned. Zirian hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty creeping into his mind. There was a long silence. The ship remained motionless, its weapons inactive, its shields barely registering any fluctuations. Then, another message came. "This is not a warning. If you fire upon us, we will respond." The simplicity of the words made them even more terrifying. It was not a threat, not an attempt at intimidation, it was a fact. The Coalition had faced defiance before. They had encountered species who thought they could resist their might, who had made bold declarations before being crushed beneath the Coalition's power. But this felt different. There was no arrogance in the message, no desperate bluffing. It was as if whoever was aboard that ship truly believed what they were saying, and that was what made it terrifying. The officers on the bridge of the Voralax turned to Xerion, waiting for his next command. Fire and risk an unknown retaliation? Or wait and see what happened next? His instincts told him that something was very wrong. This was no ordinary encounter, and for the first time in his long career, Admiral Xerion felt something he had never expected to feel in the presence of another warship. Doubt. The mysterious warship still loomed in the darkness of space, unmoving, unshaken by the overwhelming fleet of the Galactic Coalition. Every scan, every attempt to probe its systems, had failed. It was as if the ship itself refused to be understood, existing beyond the reach of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Admiral Xerion stood still, his reptilian eyes locked onto the holographic display of the enemy vessel. He had led countless campaigns, fought against rebellious species, and crushed civilizations that defied the Coalition's rule. But this was different. This wasn't an enemy begging for mercy. This wasn't an opponent trying to negotiate for peace. This was something completely outside their expectations, something that neither feared them nor cared for their warnings. The words still echoed in his mind. "This is not a warning. If you fire upon us, we will respond." There was no arrogance in that voice, no desperation, only certainty, and that was what troubled him the most. A sense of unease spread through the Coalition fleet as they observed the unknown ship up close. Unlike the sleek and polished warships of the Coalition, this vessel was a fortress of raw power. Its thick armor plating showed signs of past battles, scorch marks, and impact craters covering its surface like scars from forgotten wars. The design was brutal, functional, no unnecessary elegance, no decorative markings. Every inch of it was built for war, optimized for survival. Its structure seemed old and new at the same time, as if it carried the legacy of countless battles while being constantly upgraded for future wars. Yet, despite its terrifying appearance, its weapons remained offline, its shields barely registering on the scanners. It wasn't preparing to attack. It was waiting, watching, judging. Zirion's instincts screamed at him that this was no ordinary threat. "Send another transmission," he ordered, his voice controlled but firm. "Identify yourself. State your purpose in this sector." The communication officer quickly relayed the message, and once again, silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. Seconds stretched into agonizing minutes. The tension was unbearable. Every officer, every crew member, held their breath, their eyes fixed on the dark colossus before them. And then, finally, the ship responded. "We are human." A single sentence. A simple answer. But it sent a wave of confusion across the fleet. Zirion frowned. Human? He had never heard of such a species before. The Coalition had mapped thousands of star systems, encountered countless alien civilizations, and categorized each one based on their technological level. But humans? There was no record of them anywhere in the archives. A new species, perhaps? Impossible. No civilization could develop a warship of such magnitude without making its presence known. And yet, here they were. "Run an immediate database search," Zirion commanded. "I want everything we have on this species." The intelligence officers worked quickly, scanning through the vast coalition records, searching for any trace of humanity. The results came back within moments. No significant records. No known homeworld. No previous contact. They were ghosts. A species that, until now, had been completely invisible to the galaxy. Zirian felt an unsettling chill creep through him. This was wrong. No species could hide from the coalition. Not for this long. Not while possessing technology that rivaled, or perhaps even surpassed, their own. He clenched his jaw. If these humans were not an unknown race, then there was only one other explanation. They had been watching, studying, preparing, and now they had chosen to reveal themselves. But why now? What had changed? Before he could ask another question, "Your fleet is impressive." The words were unexpected. There was no mockery in the tone, no sarcasm, just a statement of fact. Zirian wasn't sure whether to take it as a compliment or a subtle warning. But before he could respond, the message continued. "However, your weapons are locked onto us. This is unwise." The admiral stiffened. His officers exchanged nervous glances. The human ship had detected their targeting systems, even though they had used the most advanced stealth protocols. That alone was alarming. But what was even more concerning was the confidence behind those words. Not a threat, not an attempt at negotiation, just a simple statement. As if they had already decided how this confrontation would end. Zirian's claws tapped against the metal console. He had to be careful. One wrong move, and this situation could spiral into something uncontrollable. His fleet outnumbered the human vessel 30-1, but something inside him whispered that numbers would not matter here. "Stand down targeting systems," he ordered, his voice steady. His officers hesitated, but they obeyed. The scanners registered the human ship once again, monitoring every detail. It remained still, unmoving. But then something changed. Without any visible propulsion, without any warning, the human warship moved. It was subtle, a shift so smooth and precise that it looked unnatural. Coalition ships used advanced anti-gravity thrusters and gravitational wave generators for movement, but this was something else entirely. The ship drifted effortlessly, not propelled by fire or energy. For the first time in centuries, the coalition did not understand the technology they were witnessing. Zirian felt the weight of the moment settle in his chest. This was not a primitive race. This was not an accidental encounter. These humans had chosen this moment, this place, to reveal themselves. And they had done so with absolute confidence. He inhaled deeply, his mind racing through possibilities. The coalition had faced many enemies before, but none had ever approached them like this. None had ever carried themselves with such quiet certainty. Then, the final message came through. It was the shortest, yet the most chilling of all. "We are not your enemy. But we are not afraid of you." The bridge remained silent. No one dared to speak. The implications of those words were heavy, undeniable. The coalition, for all its power, for all its dominance, had just encountered something truly unknown. And for the first time in its history, they were the ones being watched. Admiral Zirian had faced many adversaries in his lifetime. He had fought in countless battles, conquered entire worlds, and crushed rebellions with precision and ruthlessness. He had seen species beg for mercy and civilizations reduced to ash, all in the name of the Galactic Coalition. But never, in all his years of war and conquest, had he felt the kind of uncertainty that now gnawed at his mind. The human warship had spoken, "We are not your enemy. But we are not afraid of you." And those words carried a weight that he couldn't ignore. He had expected threats, arrogance, or desperation, but instead, the humans had responded with absolute certainty, a calm confidence that unsettled him more than any show of force ever could. He could not shake the feeling that this encounter was not a mere accident. This was deliberate. This was planned. And that meant the humans had already considered the possible outcomes before making themselves known. The bridge of the Varlax remained eerily quiet. The officers around him were tense, their eyes flicking between their monitors, and the massive human vessel that remained unmoving in the vastness of space. They were waiting for orders, for direction, for some kind of assurance that they were still in control. But Sirian had none to give. He had always believed that strength determined fate, that the Coalition's superior numbers and advanced technology made them untouchable. Yet, as he stood there, staring at the unknown warship, he could not ignore the realization forming in the back of his mind. This was not a simple confrontation. This was something far greater. "Admiral, we have completed another scan," one of the officers reported, his voice hesitant. "Their ship, it is still unreadable. We cannot detect life signs, internal structure, or power sources. It is as if—" He paused, struggling to find the right words. "As if it does not exist within our known parameters of technology." Sirian narrowed his eyes. "Explain." The officer swallowed hard. "Even the most advanced ships in the Coalition leave some kind of signature energy output, gravitational shifts, molecular disruption. But this vessel, it absorbs everything. Our sensors pick up its mass, but nothing else. It is like a void, a shadow in space, something that defies our understanding of physics." A cold unease spread through the bridge. Sirian did not allow himself to show his emotions, but the implications were troubling. Every ship left a signature, no matter how advanced. Even stealth vessels, designed to be undetectable, still produced minuscule traces of energy. But this human warship was something else entirely. It did not just evade detection, it rendered their technology useless. That was not the mark of an emerging species. That was the mark of a power beyond their comprehension. A sudden alert flashed across the holographic display. One of the smaller Coalition escort ships had moved slightly, adjusting its position. A standard maneuver, nothing aggressive. But the human warship reacted immediately. Without any visible propulsion, without any warning, the massive vessel shifted. The movement was precise, unnatural in its perfection. No acceleration, no inertia, just immediate, flawless repositioning. It was as if the very laws of motion did not apply to it. Every officer on the bridge stiffened, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Admiral, did you see that?" someone whispered. Sirian clenched his jaw. He had seen it. More importantly, he understood what it meant. This was not just an advanced ship. This was a technological anomaly, something that should not exist. The Coalition prided itself on its scientific and military superiority. They had conquered hundreds of species, absorbed their knowledge, and refined their warfare over centuries. And yet, in mere moments, the humans had demonstrated something that shattered their fundamental understanding of space travel. He took a deep breath. He needed more information. "Send another transmission," he ordered, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts in his mind. "Ask them where they come from. Ask them what their purpose is." The communication officer hesitated, then nodded and relayed the message. Once again, the bridge fell into silence. The human ship remained motionless for what felt like an eternity. Then, a new message arrived. "We are travelers. We have watched. We have listened. And now, we are here." A chill ran through the crew. The simplicity of the words made them even more unsettling. We have watched. We have listened. How long? How much had they seen? How much did they know? The Coalition was used to being the ones who observed, the ones who controlled information. The idea that an unknown species had been silently watching them for an undetermined amount of time was deeply disturbing. Sirian exhaled slowly. There was no arrogance in the human's response, no hostility, just facts. But that was exactly what made it terrifying. The humans were not reacting out of fear. They were not scrambling to defend themselves. They were speaking as if they already understood how this would unfold. As if they knew something the Coalition did not. Another message followed. This time, it was different. "You do not understand what is coming." The words sent a ripple of unease through the crew. What did that mean? What was coming? Sirian's mind raced through possibilities. Was this a warning? A threat? Or something else entirely? The human ship had not fired a single shot, had not made any aggressive moves. Yet every interaction so far had shifted the balance of power in an invisible but undeniable way. He knew he had a choice to make. He could order an attack, unleash the full force of the Coalition fleet upon this single warship. But something inside him, the instinct that had kept him alive through countless battles, told him that would be a mistake. He had always believed in power, in overwhelming force, as the ultimate solution. But for the first time, he hesitated. Then another message came through. The final message. We will not interfere. But if you threaten us, you will understand why we have remained unseen until now. Sirian closed his eyes for a brief moment. He understood. This was not a warning of retaliation. It was a simple truth. The humans did not want war, but if war came, they would not hesitate. And that, more than anything, made them the most dangerous opponent the Coalition had ever encountered. Slowly, he turned to his officers. "We are standing down," he said firmly. "No hostile actions. No further provocations. We will observe and report back to High Command." The officers exchanged uncertain glances, but they obeyed. The fleet adjusted its stance, weapons disengaging, targeting systems deactivated. The human warship did not respond, did not acknowledge the action. It simply remained there, as if it had already known this would be the outcome. Sirian watched the silent behemoth. The realization settled deep into his bones. This was not just a first contact. This was a moment that would change everything. The balance of power had shifted in a way no one could have predicted. And for the first time in centuries, the Coalition had encountered something beyond its control. They had found an unknown force in the galaxy, and now they had to decide whether to fear it or respect it. Admiral Jorvek of the Exilvani Dominion had always believed in the superiority of his people. Their empire had spanned hundreds of star systems, crushing resistance wherever it arose. Their warships were the most advanced in known space, their weapons unmatched, their strategies flawless. No species had ever dared to challenge them, not truly. The weak begged for mercy, the strong were broken, and the foolish were erased from existence. Yet, as he stood on the bridge of the dread inferno, staring at the impossible sight before him, Jorvek felt something he had never experienced in his long career. Doubt. The vessel before them was enormous, unlike anything the Dominion had encountered. It did not gleam with polished metal or radiate energy signatures like other ships. Instead, it was an abyss, a void in space, swallowing every scan they sent its way. No readings of power, no detectable engines, no known composition. It was as if the ship was not even real, just a hole in the fabric of reality itself. Yet, there it was, unmoving, waiting, watching. Jorvek did not believe in superstition, but this thing, whatever it was, felt wrong. His second-in-command, Captain Relos, stepped forward, his expression tight with concern. "Admiral, our weapons are locked onto the unknown vessel, but our targeting systems are struggling. It is as if the ship exists in multiple places at once, shifting between them." He hesitated. "We have never seen anything like this before." Jorvek scowled. "We have faced anomalies before, Captain. We will destroy it like we destroy everything else." He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot. I want to see how it reacts." The command was executed immediately. A concentrated beam of plasma energy, powerful enough to reduce a battleship to molten slag, erupted from the dread inferno and streaked toward the unknown ship. It traveled the vast distance in seconds, and then it was gone. No impact. No explosion. No shield reaction. The beam simply ceased to exist, as if reality itself had rewritten history and erased it from existence. Silence fell across the bridge. Every officer stared at their monitors, at the empty space where their attack should have landed. Captain Relos swallowed hard. "Admiral, our logs do not show any record of the shot. It's as if we never fired at all." Jorvek's fists clenched. This was impossible. No technology in the galaxy could do such a thing. Even the most advanced defensive systems still had limits. But this was something different. His mind raced with possibilities. Was it time manipulation? Dimensional phasing? Some kind of quantum distortion? No matter the answer, One fact remained: they were outmatched. Then, the ship responded. A deep, vibrating hum filled the bridge, not through the ship's systems, but through their very minds. It was not a sound, not a transmission, but a presence. A voice without words, a force without form. It was not speaking to them, it was inside them, reaching into their thoughts, stripping away their arrogance, their certainty. Jorvik gritted his teeth as images flashed through his mind, entire stars extinguished in an instant, planets turned to dust, fleets far greater than his own erased as if they had never existed. This was not a threat. This was not a warning. It was a simple truth: the power before them was beyond anything they could comprehend. The hum faded, and for the first time in his life, Jorvik felt something close to fear. He was an admiral of the Dominion, a conqueror of worlds, a master of war. But what did that mean against something that could erase reality itself? "Admiral, they are sending a message," Captain Relos whispered, his voice trembling. The screen before them flickered, and a single line of text appeared. "You do not understand what you are facing. Stand down." Jorvik's instincts screamed at him to retreat. His pride refused. He had never backed down from an enemy before. But this was no ordinary enemy. This was something that could wipe them from existence without effort. He turned to his crew, their faces pale, their confidence shattered. They all knew the truth now. With a deep breath, Jorvik made his decision. Disengage. We are leaving. As the fleet turned away, the ship remained still, watching, waiting. And Jorvik knew this was only the beginning. Commander Ryland sat in his seat aboard the UHS Endeavour, his eyes locked onto the massive view screen before him. The stars stretched endlessly, but his focus was on the colossal alien structure floating in the void. It was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It wasn't just large, it was impossible. The surface seemed to shift, folding in on itself, defying the very laws of physics. Scanners struggled to register its composition, and every attempt to map its structure resulted in conflicting reports. Some sections appeared solid, while others flickered like a mirage. The crew had seen strange things beyond Earth, but this was something else. A message had appeared moments ago, written in perfect English, displayed across the screen as if it had been waiting for them. "Welcome to a new reality." Ryland's fingers tightened around the armrest. The crew of the Endeavour had been the first to break the boundaries of known space, the first to venture beyond the safe regions of the galaxy. They had expected to find new life, maybe even civilizations as advanced as theirs. But what they had stumbled upon was beyond expectation. The structure pulsed with a faint light, reacting to their presence. It was waiting for something. Lieutenant Carter, the ship's chief scientist, turned from his console. "Sir, this thing. It doesn't follow any known material structure. We're detecting gravitational shifts, energy fluctuations, and some readings that don't make sense. It's like..." He hesitated. "It's like this thing isn't completely in our universe." Ryland frowned. "Explain." Carter exhaled, struggling for words. "We're reading energy signatures that suggest overlapping dimensions. Parts of this structure exist outside of what we understand as reality." The crew exchanged nervous glances. A low hum reverberated through the ship, a vibration that wasn't coming from the engines. It wasn't an attack, not yet, but it felt like a presence was reaching into the Endeavour, waiting for a response. "Sir," Carter spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper, "if we do this, we might not come back the same." Ryland considered the warning. Humanity had always pushed boundaries, had always sought to uncover the unknown. But this wasn't just unknown, this was something that defied understanding. And yet, every instinct told him they had no choice. Whatever this was, it wasn't leaving them an option. "Take us in," he ordered. The Endeavour moved forward. As they approached, the structure seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting, shifting its form in ways that the mind struggled to comprehend. The ship's lights flickered. Instruments glitched. And then everything went dark. For a moment, silence. Then, a voice not heard but felt. "You have left the limits of your reality. You are now in ours." The view screen flickered back to life. But what lay before them was no longer space. It was something else. The stars were gone, replaced by a vast, infinite plane of swirling lights and impossible shapes. Structures of unknown design floated in the distance, stretching beyond comprehension. Gravity felt unstable, shifting with every breath. The ship's controls were still functioning, but they were no longer in the galaxy they had known. They had stepped into something far beyond it. Carter's voice was filled with both awe and fear. This isn't just another part of space. We're in a different layer of existence. A new reality. Ryland's mind raced. Were they prisoners? Had they been brought here for study? Or was this some kind of test? The message had welcomed them, but what did that mean? The screen changed once more. Do you seek understanding? Ryland exhaled, his heart pounding. The only way forward was to accept what lay ahead. With steady resolve, he gave the only answer possible. Yes, the new reality was just beginning.